Hello, my name is Damon Camacho. This is the book review for Candide. And before I say anything else, I absolutely loved the novel. I thought it was hilarious. It was one of my favorite novels of all time. It is certainly my favorite of Voltaire's work. And I think it is extremely enjoyable, and I recommend it to absolutely anyone. I highly recommend that you read the footnotes because throughout the novel he uses historical events to prove his points. And knowing all the little bits of information, it makes it all the better. The novel is a Bildungsroman. It's a coming-of-age story for a boy named Candide, who is very appropriately named because his name being Candide reflects his innocence and naivety, which is a trait that will be tested many times throughout the course of the novel. Um, Voltaire is not very subtle with names, um, or in general. Candide's love interest, Cunegonde, her name reflects her appearance, and her appearance is that she is quite well endowed in some areas. The humor is very on the nose throughout the entirety of Candide. There's a lot of dark humor. There is a lot of irony throughout it, and it's extremely enjoyable. Candide was mentored and raised and taught by the philosopher Pangloss, and he is a firm believer in optimism. And optimism is essentially what the entire book is about. It is an idea that is challenged and critiqued and lampooned throughout the entirety of the novel, and he's very direct on it. Leibniz, the advocate for optimism, had quite a feud with Voltaire, and Voltaire name drops him in the novel while he's making his most staunch supporter, Pangloss, look like an idiot. That was a quote I particularly remember, and I thought was very funny. It was that Pangloss was saying it is necessary that the individual suffer so that the collective as a whole can grow and prosper. And from that it can be inferred that the more people suffer, the greater the whole prospers. Which, it's a straw man. I personally do not believe that Voltaire gave optimism a fair go about it. I think he really had an axe to grind with it. But, it is quite funny. Throughout the entire novel, there is a lot of suffering on the part of every single character and everyone involved. If you have a name in Candide, you have a horrible fate. The entire novel, it's a roller coaster. There is lots of ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. Candide picks up a handkerchief and has a romantic moment with Cunegonde, and then he immediately gets thrust out of his castle and sent to the 30 Years' War. He goes through punishment, but he is rescued by a very generous man. He goes out and he finds Pangloss, and Pangloss is very shortly thereafter hung. And this roller coaster of emotions goes throughout the entire novel. When Voltaire is criticizing optimism, he does it through a historical lens. A lot of the events that happened throughout Candide are things that actually happened. There was the 30 Years' War, which is the war at the start, where Candide fights in. There is the earthquake in Lisbon. There is the drowning of the sailor. There is the Auto de Feu that happens. So those are like real things that happen. And so it is kind of a reaction to the sentiment at the time that, hey, God has a plan, everything works out for the best, we live in the best possible of all worlds. Voltaire looks at these events and he says, well, no, we don't live in the best possible of all worlds. There may be this horrendous war, and it serves no one. It violates women, it destroys land, it separates families, it kills people, people are punished. you can portray it however you want. Candide has an unreliable narrator, and it describes the war as very elegant and intricate, and oh, there's music going on. Look, it's a glorious battle. Meanwhile, people are dying by the actual thousands, and it is horrible. They're suffering, they're losing limbs, they're dying, lands are being burned. And so this suffering doesn't really benefit anyone. No one benefits from it. There's the earthquake in Lisbon, and no one benefits from that earthquake. People are hung, people are burned, people lose their houses, they lose all their wealth, everything they worked hard to build. No one benefits from these things. And so Candide is essentially taking the boy Candide, a firm believer in optimism, putting him inside of the real world, which is why he uses these historical events, and showing no, things are not that good. Saying that they're good doesn't do anything for anyone. You're kind of saying, here, cheer up, everything is perfect even though you lost everything. It's not quite good. However, Voltaire isn't entirely a pessimist, and that's where the philosopher Martin comes in, and he is a firm believer in pessimism. He believes everything is horrible. If you encounter wealth, it's going to lead you to more misery. Any happiness you get, it will just lead to more misery. You can have a beautiful wife, like Cunegonde, she's going to make you miserable throughout the end. And with the turn of events throughout the novel, yeah, everything does kind of become miserable and everyone's unhappy. But Voltaire doesn't believe that it has to be that way. At the end of the novel, all the characters reunite. Despite all their troubles, miraculously they come together, and they're free, and they have some wealth, and they're sitting on their farm, and they're reflecting on everything, and they meet a man, a philosopher, and he has a garden, and he has a nice family, and he is enjoying the simple pleasures in life. He eats delicious food, he has a family that he loves, he's not in any current misery, he's not striving for the wealth that brought Candide pain. They're not particularly beautiful, and that beauty brought Cunegonde lots of suffering throughout the novel at the hands of many captors. They're not striving for anything high, they're just very happy with their station in life, they're very grateful for everything that they have. They don't really concern themselves with the effects or with the events of the world around them. They have their own world, they put their nose to the grindstone, and through their work and through their simple life, they find happiness. Martin never believed that there would be any happiness. He believed, oh, you're gonna marry Cunegonde, you're gonna be miserable. This wealth will bring you misery. There's even another believer in pessimism, I believe he was a Venetian noble, who finds no joy in any literature. The people in Paris, they find no joy in any plays, they're quite unhappy. And yet, at the very end, Candide learns to accept having a simple life, accept, what I have is not that bad. I was not killed, I'm not ridden with syphilis like Pangloss was. I may not have the greatest life in the world. I may not be living El Dorado, but this is alright. This is good. This makes me happy. And I think this is what Voltaire wants us to do, He wants us to disregard these very, very, how would I say it, strict philosophies that it has to be exactly this way. This is how the universe is. It is very definitive. Because life is very dynamic. Things change. We have our ups and downs. We can be happy, we can be sad. There's no definitive answer to things. At the end, Pangloss tries to assert, we'll see if we're happy. Things turned out well. But Candide simply says, I don't know about that, but let's get to work. Let's work on our garden. Let's work on ourselves. And that's what he wants us to do. He wants us to focus more on ourselves and less on the grander scheme, the more what is the meaning of life type questions. And I liked it a lot. The novel is extremely funny. It is almost like slapstick in its comedy because it's very suffering, and yet the suffering doesn't last forever, you know. Pangloss, he gets syphilis, but he recovers. He gets hung, but it turns out he lives. He gets put as a slave, and then he's free. It follows the rules of comedy that we learned, or that we watched in the beginning, with that little documentary about you're gonna have suffering, but you can't have it be too real. If you make it comedic, over the top, exaggerated, and have no lasting harm, then comedy or the pain can be quite funny. You can laugh at the suffering of others, and they do it quite a bit in Candide. There was another comedic technique. I would define it as irony, mainly because of how unexpected it is and like how we have the information and the characters don't. There's a very good example of it where Voltaire uses chapter titles for comedic effect. When Candide reunites with the brother of Cunegonde, he meets him. They're like, "Oh, how fortunate! This is amazing! Oh, it's really you, Candide! Oh, Cunegonde is okay. Everything's happy. Yeah, we're gonna go over there. We're gonna go rescue Cunegonde. We're gonna live happily. Everything's gonna be great." And then the chapter ends, and the following chapter title is "How Candide Killed Cunegonde's Brother." It is very ironic and very enjoyable. All throughout, this roller coaster is extremely entertaining and very well done, and I like it quite a lot. And I think that having the historical events, it made it all the funnier. I'm not sure how funny it would be if we had events more close to us, more recent. These events were hundreds of years away, so we can laugh about an earthquake in Lisbon. We can go laugh about a admiral being shot and all that stuff. I'm not sure how well received it was at the time or how well received it would be now, but as it stands, it is quite funny and very enjoyable. I would firmly recommend it. The novel is very short. The language is very simple. It has a lot of moments that would be enhanced by historical context, and if you have a copy with footnotes, definitely read those. However, knowledge of history and optimism and pessimism isn't necessary for the book to be funny. And so I think I would highly recommend it to just about anyone. Yeah. If you excuse me, I have to go tend to my garden.